Welcome back, Toastmasters and guests. We are now entering the prepared presentation portion of our meeting. Today, we have a very special presentation today that will be done by none other than our very own Toastmaster Angela, who is an avid blacker, a published author, and an English teacher. Her project today is Prepare to Speak Professionally. The purpose of her speech is for her to practice developing and presenting a longer speech. And her presentation will be about English. Our very own Toastmaster, Angela.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, can.
Okay. English. Everybody here speaks English. Good English, moderately good English, or excellent English. I'm going to help you to speak even more good English and have fun doing so. Of course, we all want to hear from people who speak good English. At the moment you're listening to me, I am from the United Kingdom and I'm speaking British English. I was born, bred, brought up in England. I can also tell you a lot about technical English. I've written a book called Weddings, Speeches and Toasts, which included formal English for presenting to a large audience, as well as quotations. More recently, I have moved from writing books for regular publishers. Now that I'm semi-retired and can amuse myself, I have gone on to books that were just for me, such as quick quotations, because I can't remember long ones. And Who Said What When, so that when I'm a president, I can find a quotation for every day of the week. And my latest book, which will be out, it's out already as an ebook, but I'm about to get it published as a paperback, will be Improve Your English with Alliteration. Of course, you all know about it being a fabulous Friday, and letter E, like Edward, is an engaging and exciting Edward and the perfect president. So we can always use a little extra alliteration. Now, let's go on to what else we have. I've done lots of poetry and play and improv performances, and I often speak with props. You already saw me holding up my props, and I'm known as the Queen of Props. Through Toastmasters, I've learnt to count, give speeches, and I've had most of the roles and won at club and area and later division level contests. Now, what next can I help you with? The Queen's English. I speak what is known as received pronunciation, which is middle of the road, perfectly acceptable BBC type English. The Queen speaks even better English, and you can hear her speak on Christmas Day. Because of the time lag from England, the 3 o'clock speech, which is timed for people having Christmas dinner, will be nearer 11 p.m. here. You can check on a time calculation website to find out the exact time, because I know some of you are not in Singapore, you are in other countries. You can find out when the Queen's speech will be in your country. Listen to it, you will be amazed and impressed. I had a French au pair girl once, and she said that when she got on the train, she couldn't understand what people said in London. They're all saying, yeah, you know. But when she listened to the Queen's speech, she understood every word. So that gives you a clue as to why it would help you to learn to speak better English in order to be understood by other people from other countries all around the world who are desperately trying to understand what they think is standard English, when in fact people all around the world, including the UK, speak all sorts of odd kinds of English. In fact, playwright and wit Bernard Shaw said, "The English and the Americans are two nations divided by a common language." Now, I lived in America for 3 years, and I'm going to do a little quiz with you and wonder if how many of you know the answers. What is the American for autumn? Unmute. Alex? Fall, yes, Ananya. Right. What about a car bonnet?
The hood.
Yes. What about the car boot?
The trunk.
Yes. And in England, I might ask for Durex in a pharmacy, in a chemist shop. What would an American ask for?
Directions to the drugstore.
They'd ask for a rubber. As I found to my cost when I went to ask for some stationery in a shop, and I said, "Do you have any rubbers?" And the lady said, "Go up to the drugstore." And I thought, I don't understand that. They've got rulers. They must have rubbers. And I came back and I said, "What do you call this?" She said, "Eraser." So I said, "But you understood the word rubber?" She said, "Yes." I said, "Well, what is a rubber?"
Durex is a what?
Go and have a look up in the drugstore. Anyway, I found out eventually. Now, I went up to what the Americans called the second floor. No, I went up to what the Americans call the third floor. Okay, what's the first floor in English in America?
The lobby.
Okay,
The lobby.
let's start on the ground. In England, you have the ground floor. In America, it's called the first floor. In England, you would have the first floor. In America, that would be the second floor. It is so confusing when you're trying to find your way. And people say it's on the first floor. And I think it's one up. And in fact, it's on the ground floor and I miss it. Right, homely. Homely?
Cozy.
Homely. In England, it would be, "Oh, that's rather nice. She's a homely person, kind and homely." In America, it means plain ugly. Yeah, don't want to be called homely. Okay, in England, you have a lorry. What is that in America?
The truck.
Yes, a truck. And a lorry driver would be?
Truck driver.
Yes. Okay. Now, I was on a train in Disney in Florida, and they said, "We will be stopping momentarily." And I said, "Oh, quick, 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 grab the suitcase. They're only going to be here for a moment." No, no, no. Momentarily in America means shortly, soon. Whereas momentarily means briefly. Right, nappy. What's a nappy in America?
Diaper.
Diaper, yes. Okay. In England, pants. What are they in America?
Trousers.
Now, in England, trousers are what the Americans call pants. And what we call pants, they call underpants, I understand. Because I keep hearing people talking about pants, and I think they're talking about what Americans call underpants, but they're not, so it gets very confusing. Right, paper hankies. Americans and Australians, Kleenex. Okay, the next confusion, in San Francisco, I said, "Please send me a porter." Never got one. We were waiting to check out. Eventually, I rang down and said, "Where's the porter? Can you send me a porter?" And the lady on the desk said, "Sure, ma'am, if you tell me what a porter is." I said, the man who collects the suitcases, what do you call him? "Oh, you want a bellhop." Right. Okay, what do the Americans call a tap? It's in the right
Faucet.
hand column, a faucet. Thank you. And what in England we call a tip or a trick, Americans call a hack. Oh, you read the Daily Mail and it says hacks, and the English get so angry. They say it's not a hack, it's not a hack, it's a tip.
Yeah,
Right,
it's a tip. Canadian say tip as well.
thank you. Right, in England we say turn right. I sat in a car, an American said, do you know what he said? He said, make a right. Make a right what? The right full of yourself? I don't know. What's make a right? Make a right. Turn right.
Angela, there's one more.
Yes.
The British will say horse riding. Do you know what the American says?
What?
Horseback riding. I don't know where else can you ride the horse on, but they call it horseback riding.
All right. Thank you for that. I'll add it. Horseback riding.
Okay,
Horseback
Angela,
riding. Can you
Angela,
relate?
you're at the halfway mark.
Oh my goodness. Is that 10 minutes already?
Yes.
Ah, well, I'm going to skip through this and show you what there is still to come if you invite me back on another occasion or to do a long workshop. After Americanisms, I have autocorrect, I have puns for fun, I have French pronunciation, ode to Cologne, an entrepreneur. Mrs. Thatcher learned to speak with a lower voice to sound more authoritative. The Italians say something different. They say Maria, and we would say Victoria. Right, and also L's and R's. This is your pirate speaking. I hope not. I hope it's a pilot, not a pirate. English is the language of pilots, but they do need to practice their L's and R's. I also heard somebody say the halo effect. She meant the halo effect. So the trick for pronunciation is to look in dictionary.com and press on that little sign that looks like a loudspeaker. It will tell you the pronunciation if I'm not around. Punctuation, if you see an apostrophe at the top of a word, it's usually for a possessive. And you add an S like Los Angeles, which is Spanish for the angels, for plurals. What else do we have? A few helpful tongue twisters. She sells seashells on the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers if you want to practice your P's. And finally, where to go next? You can listen to friends to learn American pronunciation, or you can listen to the BBC or watch the films The Lady Killers or My Fair Lady to learn English pronunciation. Now, I would like to know if you have any questions. I would be happy to answer them. And if Edward would kindly look in the chat box or the raised hands or start the questioning, I would be very pleased to answer any questions about English anywhere in the world.
You have a raised hand, Alex.
Alex?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And Angela, thank you so much for your speech. I have a question for you. How did you become such a passionate purveyor of English?
I started my career as an English teacher, training to be an English teacher. I then went to work for IPC magazines in what I thought was a dreadful job. I was a sub-editor and I put the punctuation in other people's sentences and wrote alliterative headlines. and they got all the credit and I got none. Their name was in the article and they spelled all the words wrongly and got the punctuation wrong and the grammar wrong. And I corrected it and got no credit. And I was thoroughly miserable. And now I look back on that period and I think that was the best training ever, because 8 different people checked every article. And amazingly, every person found something different and something new that was wrong. Because everybody has their own little thing that they know and their own things that they care about. Does that answer your question? But now, I've also taught in Singapore schools, and I look at words all the time. As language evaluator, I have to find word of the day. So I look up words and find all the different idioms for a particular word. And that's very helpful. Hope that answers your question, Alex.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? How are we doing for time, Edward?
For time, we have approximately 6.5 minutes remaining. I have a question, Angela.
Yes.
What's the difference between a dialect and the English language? What separates an English dialect from English?
A dialect is something you can understand. It's like mainstream English, but it has a lot of different vocabulary and sometimes different pronunciation, which means that some people understand it and some people don't. And we have loads of dialects, which is not the same as an accent. For example, let me give you some accents. The Welsh accent. Oh, Welsh boy, oh, they always speak up and down like this. And it sounds ever so funny if you're from England. But it's perfectly understandable. It just sounds so odd. Whereas a dialect, let's look at Scottish words like wee for small, a bairn for a child, and kirk for a church. A lot of words are very similar, but slightly different. And I remember going on a tour around a whiskey distillery, and the man showing us around said, "Nae colouring, nae nothing." And I said to my husband, what did he say? He said, "No colouring, not anything." I said, oh, and I just couldn't get it because nay and no, I didn't know what nay was. I was thinking N-A-Y and it was the name of somebody. So does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Any more questions? Anything puzzles you?
Well, yes, go ahead.
Sorry, could I ask where you find the idioms for each word?
Yes. I would suggest you get a proper dictionary, a physical dictionary, like this one is the Concise Oxford Dictionary. It's quite heavy, but it's small enough for you to lift and look into. And you can go into a big bookshop and look for a dictionary, but make sure it has etymology, which is the root of every word, tells you what it comes from, the Latin or the Greek. For example, let me give you some examples. Well, I learned Latin at school. So political comes from polis, meaning city. And once you know the origin, it helps you remember the word. Claustrophobia and agoraphobia. Ager is the Latin for field. I couldn't remember which was claustrophobia and which was agoraphobia. Once I remembered ager was a field, I immediately knew that agoraphobia was the fear of open spaces. So that will help you. And I have a book called Times Chambers Dictionary of Idioms. This is not the only one. If you want a book on idioms, just look online on Amazon or any supplier for a book of idioms. But you will find them in a big dictionary. And you can also find them online. Just type in the word idiom and the word you're looking for. There's so much online nowadays. It's just I find dictionaries easier to handle.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for sharing.
Any other question? I think somebody else was trying to ask a question.
Well, I had a question. It's Alex from Canada here. I wanted to know if there was any dialect or regionalism, regional speech with which you had any particular difficulty in your career.
Yes, the two that are most difficult for me are Glaswegian and Geordie. Glaswegian is a very, Glasgow, they have a very broad accent. And as I described before, going north from Aberdeen, as you go out towards the outlying islands, the accent and the vocabulary is more mixed in with Gaelic, so that they're using words that we don't use at all. Now, the common words like we and ben, I mean, even taking Scottish, the words for Old Lang Syne. I mean, how many people know what Syne is? I keep looking it up. I know it's old time's sake, but to work out which word is which, we sing these songs all the time. Ye'll take the high road and I'll take the low road and I'll be in Scotland before ye. It's all old language. And if you look at Shakespeare, it's very hard. But the advantage when you're reading Shakespeare, as I did as a teacher, is you get the annotated version of the Shakespeare play and all the words are translated at the bottom. So the teacher can be one ahead of the pupil, because while they're just sort of sitting like that, you can be looking at the bottom of the page and reading it to them. So there's your answer. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed that. If any more questions, send them to me. Back to you, Toastmasters Day, Edward.
Excellent presentation, most insightful. A round of applause for Angela, please. Yeah, okay, we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll return with the evaluation portion of our meeting. You can stop sharing now, Angela.
Oh, thank you.
I clocked you at 21:47.
21:47, thank you. Could you put that on the evaluation form underneath where it says time allowed? And then email that to me so I've got a record when you've filled in the form.
Will do.
Thank you. I know you did it last time. You were very good.
Hey, where is Willie? Is Willie still around?
He seems to be taking a break at the moment. I wrote to him and asked him whether he was staying on in the club, and he said he's still thinking about it. He told me that just today.